everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we are going to paint this gorgeous fall scene. This is a very beginner-friendly fall scene. It's not a lot of time. It's a lot of fun techniques. If you've been wanting to get your artist knives out a little bit, this is a good one for that because we're going to do some palette knife, but I do have some alternate tools that you can use. I'm going to explain every color mix, every technique, everything you need step by step. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
He's going to be making sure that you can see all of these amazing techniques and everything that we're doing during this video. And so you can really paint this for yourself at home. I so appreciate you being here today. I'm really excited about it. Don't forget, we have a giveaway going today. So you're going to want to leave a comment at the end of the video with the hashtag #TheArtSherpa. Some terms and conditions apply. Is not associated with any platform. Anyway, we're going to be giving away some of the new Art Sherpa pins. So excited to see you guys do that. And then we'll announce those about a week later on who's the winner. We've been having a lot of fun with that. Hopefully you've got your tools out and your paint ready to go. This is going to be that fun, easy painting you need this fall with some great birch trees. John, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's just jump right on in. In today's lesson, we're going to be using a 9x12 canvas, and I have the paint colors, and I'm kind of excited about this today, John.
Yeah?
It's a very limited palette. Whenever you hear someone say limited palette, what they mean is like not a lot of color. We have Mars Black, Burnt Sienna, Cad Red Medium. We have Cad Yellow and Phthalo Green and Titanium White, and that's all I'm going to give myself to do today's painting.
A challenge.
It is a challenge. It is a challenge, but actually it's also easy, which is why I feel really good about sharing this with you guys, because I think you're really going to be able to do this painting. And it's going to be a really good introduction to a bunch of fun techniques. And if you've never tried them before, this would be a great one to try it on. And I think we're ready to just kind of jump in and do step one, John.
Wow.
Step one.
Ready for a step
one.
All ready. My little mousy thing has to go.
Step one, autumn birch trees. That is a tip of the hat to my mother-in-law. She's noticed that a lot of things have been called autumn something this year. And we just thought, why back off of it now?
It's that time of year.
So I'm taking a 1-inch cutter brush. This is just a it's like that house style painting brush. It's not, it's an artist brush, and it's got hog bristles in it. And so it's going to let me paint a lot of area real fast. So let's do that. And I'm going to start with actually kind of a dark surface. I'm going to start with a little of my burnt sienna and my Mars Black, because I really want the orange to pop against a dark background. And I'm not going to worry about making it neat or tidy. This particular layer of color where we're painting the canvas doesn't need to be. It just needs to have some paint on it. Just some paint, John.
Just some. And that's where it's like, it's okay if it's a little brushy.
Yeah, it's totally fine if it's brushy. This is such a textural piece, and this has so much leaves going on, and it's really just about the texture and the leaves, and then having that little bit of kind of forward value that pops from the background. And I'm also really excited about the grass. It's a weird thing to be excited about, but I am excited about putting in the grass.
Excited about grass.
I'm excited about the grass.
Okay, I'm excited about the grass.
Because I have some thoughts on how to get it in. Notice that I'm just scruffling this in. Right? This isn't precious. This is probably one of the funner, more like if you're having kind of a week and you just want to take it out on something, time to take it out.
You know what my secret is?
I'm not having a week, but you could do that. What is your secret?
I have no thoughts.
You have all kinds of thoughts.
I'm thoughtless.
Yes. That's not what I mean when I say that. I don't say that. Don't write in. Don't say that.
You've angered the intertubes.
Oh my gosh, that used to happen so much when we were first on. Women would write me and be like, he's such a good man. Don't talk over him. I'm like, it's an art show.
It's not even my show. I'm here heckling my wife on. It's like.
All right. Look at that. I am relieved from some of my week's stress.
All right.
And I have a brown canvas that I now have to dry with a hairdryer for the next technique to work.
All right.
All right. So let's dry it with a hairdryer.
And then we'll be back.
And then we'll be back with the next step.
And then what'll happen is it'll just blend cut in, and you'll say, okay, now we go on to step 2.
Is the step going to come underneath?
As soon as you say that. All right. And action.
No, I don't know what you mean. Okay, say action again. I'll do it. Do it again. Don't leave this in.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I have.
Now I really, really mean it too.
Okay.
Don't like say you won't and then leave it in.
I won't say I won't.
Because it's going to add a bunch of time.
Action.
So now we're going to go on to step 2, a really fun step. Oh, I love the bumper says tells you where step 2 is. Don't forget that we're going to timestamp these so you can find your place again, and those match the chapters in the book. Makes it super easy. So, a couple of ways we can do the next step. You could use a sponge if you don't have a hog brush. I'm going to use a hog brush, and we're going to be making a very kind of textural, random background. It kind of reminds me of white noise on a TV. But some of the ways that I'm going to make it easier for myself is I'm going to take a little yellow and red. I'm going to make a dark orange together, right? And I'm going to mix some brown into it. Some brown. Right, because we want a dark leaf, and then we're going to come over and have a slightly lighter leaf as we go. And then we'll be putting kind of like a little finishing. But we want to leave room. The background foliage, right? It is muted and a little bit in the distance. Take this, and then I'm going to come here and maybe make another orange, just a little bit brighter. Look at that. Just working through. And from here, I can deepen or lighten on either side using my brown or my yellow. This is an artist knife. This is a trowel, kind of a little trowel diamond head. I guess this is more of the trowel, and this is more of the diamond head. Any of these would work. You can get them in plastic even. In plastic even.
Even?
Mm-hmm. I think our artist knives are sold out everywhere. I haven't seen them anywhere. So if you see them, let me know. See the official Art Sherpa ones. Let me know, because I have not seen them as of late anywhere.
They may be sold it out.
Sold it out. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to use a big old hog brush.
Which one?
I'm trying to think what would be the most fun. I could use what I did here, but it's a little bit wet. However, I could use it. Let's see how it goes. And then if we don't like it, we'll change it. Right?
That seems good.
You could also use, you know how I've been like just crazed about the shedding Art Minds one. You have to pre-shed them though, because they want to just drop hairs all over. You could use one of these. Is like the pack of them was $3. So there's a variety of prices that will still give you the technique that works. But what I want is something that's going to be kind of rough and scumbly. This is damp, dry, not at all wet. And I'm going to tap up and down to load it. You can see how I'm loading it. And kind of see how it's going to be on the palette. I can even get a little more brown into it and come on this side and make a little random distant leaf texture. See how this is?
Yeah, it's just
not that hard,
sort of,
right? Look at us go. We're cooking. We're cooking with fire now.
That's like the bigger brush makes it go faster.
The bigger brush makes it go faster. I have even bigger brushes than this, but it would get away from me. It would go so fast. I couldn't keep up with the art. And I can come into sort of like a little half tone as I'm going, and it kind of lightens up, as you can see, coming forward. Isn't that crazy how that works?
It is. I'm worried about following you so I don't get whiplash with the camera.
Oh, it's so quick. This is going to be such a fun project. And it's one of those ones that, as a beginner, you don't know you can do, but you can totally do. And I love that as we're going forward, right, that we're going to allow some of this brown canvas to really show through and come back and blend. It's very, very quick. Now, I'm not making a pattern. In fact, I'm working really hard to avoid that. The pattern. I don't want a pattern. And I am just, again, I think this is one of those paintings you're going to get a lot of stress relief from. You're going to be like, I have had it with the world this week, and I will no longer watch the news or get online and try to have reasonable discourse with anyone. Look at me feeling better.
The no pattern pattern.
But you could do that if that's where you were feeling. Let's call this a step.
Oh.
And I don't want this to dry out, so I'm going to try to make sure it stays wet. I just want you to know that this is in 2 layers, and the next layer is where we kind of get a little detail-y with it, but not too much, but a little bit.
All right, be right back.
Okay, and we don't have to dry it. We don't want, in this next step that we're going on to, the next step, we don't want to just have this sort of wallpaper texture. By the way, this works really well on the wall. It looks really nice, and you can do this exact same thing to finish a wall. I'm just saying I've done it and looked good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a little of my phthalo green over to my burnt sienna and my orange, and I'm mixing it up because I don't want any bright pops of phthalo. These are all muted colors. Muted, muted, muted. I'm going to make sure that my brush is just a little rinsed out and damp. I'm going to tap up and down, maybe even get a little bit into the orange. And down here low, I'm going to add just this little hint of green. See the hint of green coming through her? And it's kind of starting over, not all the way to the left edge, but kind of coming from the middle. And I'm going to make random shapes because that's what trees do. Trees break it up, man. I'm adding a little orange there. Give myself maybe a little light green, and look, we just pop just some of this here and there. We want this to be a little muted, and the reason that we do is we've got some bright green up front, and we don't want the background green to pull forward into our bright green. I'm coming over here to the left-hand side, and again, still making a very random.
It's got some very strong colors.
Aren't they nice?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to rinse out, and I'm going to wipe off with a towel. The big trick with these is I always have a towel, a paint towel that I don't want to drip on my thing. And I get all the extra. I squeeze it, I cuddle it, I nurture all the water out of my brush. Get it out till it's damp, right? Towel dry your brush till it's damp. Whatever brush you're using. Sponge even. If you're using a sponge, just make sure that what is damp, not wet. Damp is the key. Something that you never would have thought anyone would say, but it's true. So I'm going to come here and add some of these lighter oranges over on this side. And again, we're making sure that we are breaking up them patterns.
Those patterns. The non-pattern patterns.
The non-pattern. Ooh, I got some. So if you ever get some of the like pure pigment on one of your little hog hairs that picks up and it like says, hey, do you want to be this? Tell it no, I don't. No, I don't want a little pop of yellow. If I want this to be more yellow, I'm going to add more yellow to it and mix it in with my artist knife. In this pattern, where it goes wrong is when you have mixed color on your brush. I know so much of what we do is fantastic when we leave mixed colors on the brush. But if you have a bright pop of yellow, that's all you're going to see. Pouncing, stamping, any of it, this is the case. Keeping it from being too bright. These are background colors. These are not going to be our bright foreground colors. This is foliage in the far, far away. I'm just mixing it up, making sure I don't have any hairs, leaving some pop of color that I got to answer about later. I'm going to add some lighter color down at the bottom. This is so that when I put the grass in, it's like got some nice stuff to contrast against. It's such a pretty. Yeah, I've got kind of lighter here and kind of darker here, don't I? If I notice that there's an area that just is holding my eye too much, I just go right over it and tap it out. Honestly, that's everything there is in the background that we've got to do so far. I know that was super fun. Make sure you rinse and dry out your brush. Let's dry this, John.
Okay.
We're going so fast. Are you excited how fast we're going?
Yeah.
I know. It's just that kind of a day. But it's that sort of fun, easy project. Now, dry it. This is key. Dry it, and then we'll come back and do the next step. In this next step, are you guys ready for the next step? It's going to be so fun. Oh, step 4 is going to give you more. It's going to give you life. You're going to love it. All right. I'm going to use a little trick here. I'm going to use a chalk pencil. You could use a piece of kids' chalk for a chalkboard. I just want something that I can kind of sketch an idea with that will go away if I try to erase it with a little damp water, right? So that's why I'm picking this. I know I've got a big tree, and it's going to kind of come just a little bit at an angle and up to the top. And I'm kind of giving myself a little sense of placement of objects so that when I go to brush stroke them in, my trees make some kind of sense. Over here, I've got a little branch, it's about almost a whole hand, a little further out at the top than at the bottom because I want it to have a little bit of an angle. And then it's got a little friend that's going to come down again at a counterposing angle. I don't know if you guys are seeing this.
Yeah.
And then there's another little one sort of coming over here, there's a bit of a break. That's because he's got a friend. We're going to bring that down. And then across this guy and literally going up behind this one is one that comes across. So we're trying to get that sense of, that real sort of birch trunk thing that we got going on. I'm going to do one over here on the right-hand side and then another one here. Now, I'm also going to remind myself that I've got a little bit of a hill of grass that I want to do, and so I'm going to draw that just so that I can know where I don't need to bring my trunk down to. I'm going to get a big brush. This is a big round brush. This one happens to be a 10 bristle on, but any sort of big round brush. You could use my number 4 round and just paint longer, but I'm live and you got stuff to do, so I'm going to use a big brush. Right? You could use another brush. Like, it doesn't have to be a big brush. It's just nice if it is. And I'm going to get a little bit of my white and a smidge of black. I find it's nice to be able to have 1 stage or 2 stages of white remaining, and that lets me kind of create a 3-value tree that's really going to have a big impact. What you see me doing here is getting a little water, 1-2 drops, and then working this all into my brush so it's well loaded. That's a big trick. I'm going to come from the bottom. A lot of what you're doing in acrylic paint is just figuring out the right amount of water for the brush.
Mm-hmm.
Too much. It's a Goldilocks zone. You're always looking for your Goldilocks zone for you and for your pigments, right? Are getting yourself in the right exact state or mood to be creative, making sure you don't have obstacles to your creative process. Well, like set up your area to be ready to paint. I'm not a neatnik. I'm just saying set up your area to be ready to paint.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do have a moment in your busy, busy life, even if it's 30 minutes, you're not spending 15 of those 30 setting up.
Yeah.
Right? This is the big focal tree. We got to make sure he's big. I'm going to add a little bit more even to the focal tree.
Oh,
it's so
yeah.
close and busy here.
That brush really makes it happen.
It does. It gives me kind of a nice starting place to work from, and I want to make sure I've got a nice coat of white. You could use fluid paint or something, which is that paint that's a little more like craft bottle paint, though they do make a professional version of that to just have a more flowing pigmentation. Let's bring a little branch off because, this one could have one.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know. Oftentimes they're more branchy up at the top, and so you don't see the branches down low, but on occasion you do. Now, this is the trick. The furthest back trees have to be painted so that you can layer the trees on top of each other. And it'll be something you're going to be remembering the whole time we're painting. If I want a tree trunk to be skinnier as it goes up, I have to lighten my pressure on my brush or begin that stroke light and then make it heavier. You're just trying to taper the tree. You want the tree to be just a little skinnier at the top.
I see.
Now there's a tree that's kind of like a little further back here. We kind of drew it in. Let's see if I can see my little notes here. I don't need to take this one up too far because it's got a lot of leaves that are going to be coming down. And then right next to it,
Nice.
another little tree branch. So
Now,
we're just putting them in. And you can see that contrast that creates this sort of stark reality.
Yeah.
The trick here for you to have a good end result is just kind of pay attention to the way these lines are a little thicker at the base and kind of tapering as they go up. All right, now this one is going to be bigger than his friend here. And I don't really need to start it too far below the hill because I'm going to want the grass to really come up. So that's why I don't take these trunks too much further down. And if I do, it's just barely. See, that way when I do the thicker applications of paint, it's not going to interfere with my ability to do fine grass. And this one has another tree in front of it. So that's why we had to paint it in that order.
I wanted to ask, if you made a mistake at this point, could you background it out and then just try
Mm-hmm.
again?
You could, if it was wet and the background was dry, you could probably even pull it up with like a damp sponge or brush. If it wasn't dry or cured enough, you could just do the background over it again. That's a good question.
Yeah.
You can fix mistakes in acrylic. And it's really about knowing, is the paint wet? And is the background super dry? Because if that's true, well, then you've got a lot of room to maneuver. We have some nice starting trunks, don't we? I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good beginning. I like it.
I like it.
And it's like visually like it's doing stuff for me. So I'm going to dry it. We're going to come back and do another step. So one of the things that you might not know as a beginner, and if I was just trying to rush you through, I could skip, but I don't think you should, is the second coat on the trees. I'm painting pro paint, and I'm still got some streaky results on my trees. And for the camera, it probably wouldn't matter. But on your results at home, it would. So I'm going to go ahead and make this whole paint the second coat a step so you guys don't forget to do it. Because when we do the palette knife work, and we're going to do some palette knife work, right? It's best if the coating underneath, if what's underneath the tree is nice and rich.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see right away this second coat takes away all that streaky, doesn't it? So when I pop a highlight with my artist knife, and when I come in with my artist knife and make a shadow on the black markings,
Mm-hmm.
it will really look finished and professional on your tree. A lot of times what happens to beginners is you just don't know that you need 2 coats. And if we cut corners and don't tell you, what happens is a beautiful thumbnail on my end and not a fun painting on your end. So let's not do that. Let's have a beautiful thumbnail for me and a gorgeous painting for you. Let's both come out of this painting winners, right?
Yeah.
So you can see it's just a little step, but it's going to make a big difference. There's lots of stuff that you can skip or technique your way through, and that's awesome. But sometimes for your outcome, there's just a little extra work you're going to have to do. Remembering that tree is in the background. This will become big when I do the artist knife. I'll have to be very, very present to that. Okay. I know. This step is a short one, but one you don't want to skip. Go for the 2 coats. Make sure it's dry in between and really dry it before you come back to do the knife. And if you don't have a knife, remember you can grab an old loyalty card or an expired credit card and get a very similar effect. All right, I'm going to dry this. All right, so for the next step, we're going to have some fun. We're going to get our artist knives out. In step 6, I'm going to show you some cool art tricks. What is going on with me? I've become the Joker. All right.
Tricky.
Tricky. I'm going to use this diamond-headed artist knife. And you know it's an artist knife because there's a good bend on the crank. Palette knives are for mixing and artist knives are for painting, and it's not important, but now you know the thing. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to add some texture. I'm actually going to start with a light white texture. So I'm going to take my white paint and I'm going to pick a side of the tree kind of to start from, and I'm loaded on the left side of the knife with the beads. See how I scrape, and that gets me a bead of paint. You've heard of this before. And I'm very gently going to fussily come across the tree. An artist knife, a little bit of white. Turn this, it's a little thick, right? It's going to be the best birches you've ever painted. You're going to be like, I'm a birch genius. Now I'm turning this canvas, as you see, and the reason I'm turning it is so that I can scrape the direction. So if your bead is on the right, you scrape to the left. If your bead is on the left, you scrape to the right. Something you might not know if you've never picked up an artist knife before. And I think sometimes is in in the heart of like when I see students get real frustrated with this tool, they're like, I don't know what's going on. That's because they're scraping the wrong direction. Now I got a little bit over my tree there, and there's a couple of things that I can do. If I have clean water, I can kind of come in and before it's dry, clean it up. Ah, did you know you could do that? No, you didn't, but now you do. And you're going to be like, I'm free.
Ooh.
All right, I'm pulling this out, and I'm going to load up the bead. All right, left-hand side bead, scrape right. My angle is kind of like, it's not flat or perpendicular, but it's just close. Because I want the paint to skip. No. Ah, don't worry about you being dirty or problematic in my life. Look at this. We're going to go. It's not going to take too long. Because the background's dry, what can I do?
Oh.
I can pick up any of the tree that I don't want to have there. Good to have a little paper towel and everything nearby.
So you can just trim that up.
I can trim it up. Now I've got a lot of leaves that are coming over here, but it's just something that I can do, and I'm showing you how because I know at home it could get away from you even more than what's happening on mine. So you guys seeing me address these things can really help you. Because I can't be there in the living room with you, even though I'm with you. I am with you. But I can't always be with you, so it will help me to be there. Now, this one is the furthest behind, so I'm going to artist knife it first, and I'm going to do it super thin where I know they're going to lay over because I don't want the paint to get too built up.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
I can scrape down across. I'm just letting it skip over. It's like, it's about whatever dexterity you learn to put peanut butter on Wonder Bread, that skill will now come in handy.
Yeah.
If you ever tried to put peanut butter on Wonder Bread, chunky, from the refrigerator, you'll be like, you had, you know, the delicate hand you had to use to get it out.
The skill.
The skills. You'll need those skills, my friend. You'll need them. But you can see I can just fussy up the tree. I don't got to worry. I leave some of the gray. Super important to leave the gray. You want to leave the gray. It's the dimensionality on your tree, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the layering. The order of operations in art. So much easier than the order of operations in math.
Well, I don't know.
Don't get too thick down here where you know you've got grass because it'll make it hard to do fine blades. Things to know. Things to be planning.
See how quickly she moved on from the math challenge? No, we're not going down the math conversation.
No, there's no point. What could I say to you about math that would be of use? There's a really smart TikToker that teaches math tricks. That's what I could say to you. That would be of use. I could tell you to keep an inventory in your art studio of what you have and what the list price is. And that way you know when you see a sale if it's a good deal. I could tell you to stock art companies for their sales online. Buy things at 45% off list. I can tell you good things, but not like anything about fractions or anything. See, I'm just beating on the right, stroking to the left. Or towards myself. Get fussy. It's okay. Now the trick will be to allow things to dry between the white layer and the black layer.
Ah, so the impasto stuff isn't.
Yeah, you can dry it with your hair dryer. It's just going to take about 3 times as long as you think.
Oh.
Or you can allow it to air dry. And depending on how thick you're painting this paint, If you paint an acrylic painting very impasto, it can take 3 weeks to fully cure. Not like oils. It'll be dry to the surface. You'll think it's dry. But in the center of the paint, it won't be dry. So you wouldn't want to varnish or anything until it was all the way cured. So for this painting, if you're choosing to varnish, wait 2 or 3 weeks before you do so. And because it's thick and bumpy, I would use a spray varnish, not a brush varnish. Because otherwise you end up with lots of little pools of varnish.
Ah.
For little varnish fish. There we go. Just making little scrapey, barky. This is the most fun. Last tree. Oh my gosh, you guys ready for this? Last tree. Oh, I got some green on there. That's okay. I'm going to leave it.
All right.
I don't care. It's okay.
It's your tree.
It's art. Things can be other colors, and you just don't need to worry about it. As long as it's not something that's like, oh no. Just whatever. I can get real rough with that texture. If I want that kind of like over the top texture, that's a little more perpendicular to the tree. Am I using the right word?
Think so.
Maybe. So I can line up the diamond edge. Yes, sewing will be a skill that will carry over into this moment. I'm lining up the foot. Come into that branch and pull that into bits that can be part of the tree. And I think, guys, this is wonderful. This is a great next step. Now we start to see some of that rough bark, don't we? Make sure your palette knife is completely clean. Don't let the paint dry on it. Wash them and dry them and put them to the side. Now, take a hairdryer, completely dry this, or allow this to completely dry so that it's not squishy and it's, you know, if you press down on it, it doesn't get wet or anything. That way you can come back and we can do the really cool black bark technique. So, as long as this first layer of white is dry enough for you to work over it, you're going to be able to come back and do the bark rough black layer that makes these look like birch trees. I'm going to take the same artist knife for step 7. We're step 7. We're going to take this painting to heaven. I got to look up rhymes, but we are. And it's going to be amazing. I'm going to take a little black and a little brown.
I'm gonna just grab that one right home. All the way.
I mean, you know, right here. Taking a little black and brown. I want a pretty dark color. I want it to be, you know, read as black on the surface, but not quite as harsh as, say, a black. And I'm going to take a little and I'm going to load it on a bead like I did before. And let's come here and start to create the rough bark effect. Wow. Now, this time I'm kind of tapping up and down a little more, trying to break up the bark, right? Because these aren't, it's not just like one or even. Sometimes it's very light, sometimes it's very heavy. And so you've got to find that balance to that. I do find it's, you know, good to have some of them with a little bit more down at the base, but overall, it's just about making sure you've got some randomization. Random.
And that's just sort of dancing the knife across the surface there a little bit.
Yeah, I've got a light bead on it. I'm barely touching. Sometimes I'm using this toe right here of the knife.
Yeah.
You haven't used the toe, that's where you get a little paint on there and you can kind of work it a little more. We're going to do a lot of toe knife in a minute. Look at those. They just look like birches, don't they?
Yeah. They get that birchy texture.
And now you've got the white and you've got the black and you've got the gray, so they're just even more. I'm going to be very careful here because this tree goes behind 2 trees. light load carefully to paint inside. And it's just about take a breath, relax, and you're in control. Can't go that wrong. It says it has the word knife in it, but it's not sharp. It can't cut you. You know, you're not in any danger. You can absolutely have a minute to enjoy and play.
It can cut the paint, but not the canvas.
Right.
So it's just, it go and it bend. No.
You can even kind of come flat on the knife with a light load, and then you
should not play with knives.
Should not.
But, you know.
And I went there with my finger because I got a little bit outside the tree, and I can just come back and touch that in and see it doesn't even hurt it. It's just the coolest thing. Who knew it was so much fun? I mean, and if you wanted to, like, you know, do this more, this technique's going to carry, right? Past this just one painting. Because now you know how to do them.
Yeah.
If you get anywhere you feel like, oh, I feel like that's too much black, come back with a little white. And it just makes the tree have more character. So you're okay. All right? You guys see it again?
Yeah.
Come back with a little white. And the tree just has more character. And then I wipe off there so I don't have a bunch of gray I'm carrying around. But it is easy to fix anything you don't enjoy about it. So I pull out, wipe down, pull out, load up. Just scrapey, scrapey.
Mm-hmm.
Play, play, play.
Just a little bit right across the surface there.
Just a little bit right across the surface. Come down and maybe a little more kind of going on here. Down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have that down low. Lots of personality in these now quite noticeable trees from the background. Now I'm going to go on my toe here. Of my knife, you can see I'm loading here. And this is how I'm going to kind of create that sense of a branch. Pull this in a bit. See how we made a little branch there?
Mm-hmm.
Don't I want to make a little branch? I do. Little pops.
Now it seems you're putting the bigger chunks towards the bottom. And
Yeah, I like
smaller
to put
chunks at the top.
Yeah, I like to get a little heavier at the bottom, get a little scrapey. Tree feels a little scrapey.
It implies a little bit of perspective.
Well, and on top of that, they tend to have a little more of that sort of scarring and damage at the bottom. So now we've done the coolest birch trees ever. I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they look good. They don't look like a hot mess. They look good.
No, they're birchy.
We do need to dry before the next layer. So let's give this a dry. And then when we come back, we're going to start putting in the pretty, pretty leaves. And you won't believe how fun it is. So we're ready to go on to the next step. We're still using our artist knife. Again, if you don't have an artist knife, you can use a loyalty card and you can cut it to shape. You can also like get plastic silverware sometimes. I have used like in a pinch, I've like bent and shaped a plastic knife to work for me. So ingenuity goes a long way. But I have this right here. These aren't really particularly expensive. I'm going to pull out a little bit of my yellow here and a little bit of my red. And I'm going to make a very light orange. It's not the lightest color that we're going to have in the painting, but it is lighter than what we have put down previously. And we do want it to be somewhat well mixed. I'm going to load it a lot on the tip of my brush, and then I'm going to come around. Now over here, the branches fall down and they come across, and then through the different places they go down and up. So they have some directionality, and you want to pay attention to that. I'm going to come in and just sort of touch just with the toe. Isn't that just whoa?
Ooh.
And the texture is there. We're going to really go through some paint now.
Yeah?
Yeah, and that's okay.
This is what it's for.
This is literally what it's for.
Actually? Or literally?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is painting
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's factually.
It's I don't know. It's
so
actually...
acrylic was originally kind of thought to address some of the issues that oil paints can have in certain techniques, including this type of impasto.
This is impasto.
Like maybe I want to go a little more orange in some of these. Like I can just mix these up. Yeah, this is very impasto.
And I wasn't like actually trying to correct you, actually.
Now sometimes when I'm doing the toe technique, I'll turn the painting upside down.
But one could
so
say...
I can work the toe with a little more kind of ingenuity here. You can also do a thing where you kind of tap in and pull up to give texture. So you've got a lot of room to play here. And you can see it coming really tight to the tree. Look at that. That is, I've turned it around, babe.
Oh,
look at that. Look at that. It's going to get there so you can see it. Look at this right here. I'm going to say look at it a bunch of times. All right. So we've got a little bit back here. I want to definitely kind of include some of this here.
Have to be looking at the right screen when you move.
Yeah, Judd's got a lot of screens that he looks at, so sometimes it looks like he's on the right screen, but I've moved around a bunch and he's like not on it.
It's that spinning thing you have. It makes it so
it is hard, and I know that, but really seriously, you guys want to get in the habit of moving your paintings so that they move to you, you don't move to them.
And it also makes you be able to make strokes from your stronger...
directionality.
Yeah, that's the word.
Very full up here in the leaf, so I can kind of pull it in and use the knife, and then sort of a solid leaf there. And then where I want to get individual, I get on the toe. And shape out a little spot. Yeah. I'm covering up some of these. They have a heavy leaf. More yellow involved. Now, this is one of those places that abstract acrylic paint is the bomb because it is so economical, so you can do palette knife painting.
Yeah.
You know, and if you have that in your area, I highly recommend it. Also, the reason you want to use a better paint, whether it's a pro paint or, you know, even abstract acrylic, I'm going to grab my darker orange and kind of work some spots in here, is because it doesn't shrink. If you do a really inexpensive paint, in my experience, like certain paints just shrink up really bad and you can't get the technique out of it. Let's look at this for a second. Oh, isn't that just stunning?
Amazing.
It just feels like what it is. I have some that's going to come across here. Some that's going to come across here. Some down. And we just draw with a knife, and the knife creates these little rough shapes. I'm on the toe, and you can always like wipe off. Oh, that's too much green. If that happens, you want to get that off. You don't want a surprise color getting in there on you. It won't ruin anything, but it's still worth avoiding. See, load it up. It's looking so fall.
So very fall.
So very fall. I can tap the brush up and down. Look. What I'm going to try to avoid is the lines that the tool wants to make.
Oh, the little edgy
Mm-hmm.
knifeness.
Yeah, that's good for branches.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic for branches. And that is good for leaves. So when I get it, let's turn it this way. Let's make sure we're downward. Downward little leaves. All red in it. See, and just bringing those little branches down.
Yeah.
We might get more into the red here, and that's okay because I can still come back with some light yellow. So we've room for contrast, and contrast is everything.
Mm.
You can do this thick technique with a brush too, especially if you've got my cloud brushes. We've done a whole bunch of fall paintings with the cloud brushes doing this. So it's super doable. I'm just making sure that my leaves coming down. Notice that I'm still paying attention and leaving spots that are open. Making some orange. There we go. Mixing it up on the palette. And then just paying attention to the way that trees tell their story, because they do. They tell their story a very particular way. There's one that might come back this way. A little bit kind of open. I'm loving it.
Yeah, me too.
Now up here, there's going to be a lot of leaves, so I'm going to mix up a good amount of orange. And I'm going to just kind of turn this so I can really get a bunch of leaves going on here. Yes?
I have a question about this.
I have an answer for you as I load up to the toe of my palette knife.
How do you know where to put the stuff?
Well, I use references.
Yeah.
Right? So on the website, you can come and look at the landscape reference, and you can see how I referred to that photograph to help me know where to put the leaves. I don't have to be beholden to it, right? It's not in control of me, but sometimes those kinds of resources can make doing any kind of painting like this so much easier because you're not having to remember, out of your head.
Ah, that makes sense.
And I like trying these little different techniques and textures.
Yeah.
Painting with palette knives is really fun. And this would be why. Yeah, I'm going to get a very light value going across. Lots of light to put in. See how it's almost the yellow and it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So let's start back where we were at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
If I want to not change my directionality of my painting, then what I've got to do is hold my hand, as you see, kind of back so the toe is pointing down. Got some nice dark color here. Maybe I'm going to fill in this background here. Just to make sure that it's got a little personality, a little pizzazz.
Little visual texture back there.
Yeah, I feel like it needs it. I'll come right on up to the tree. And I'll just because I can then come over with the yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, make little Little leaves, little moments, perhaps, are included in the story. Take it to the edge. That way. See how that edge line helps it?
Yeah.
Coming and tapping the edge?
Really does.
Really can help it.
You have edged your painting.
You have to sometimes a little bit with this because it's real easy. If you're painting a deep gallery wrap, you can take this technique. If you're not going to put it in a wood frame, you can take this technique around the sides. Just adding little bits of the very light color. May need to put out some more yellow.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working wet paint over wet paint, you're going to have to get even lighter with your pressure so that it sits on top.
Oh, yeah. You also make that texture shape.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to put out a little more yellow, right? And put out a little more cad yellow.
Yeah.
And make sure that I can...
That's bright.
It's bright, right? I'll still kind of tone it with the colors around it because I don't want that pure color, right? There's no point in which I'm going to be totally on that pure color.
Oh.
And I may put a little white out, but right now let's... little bits of this lighter, brighter color.
Those are the super highlights.
Yeah. You need to have some.
I can see that. Just in the trees.
Just up in the leaves, like looking for little areas the light might have caught things. Your eye. Maybe a couple spots here. Right, doesn't have to be everywhere. Little leaf, little leaf.
Yeah.
Little leaf, little leaf.
Those little leaves.
Those little leaves. Again, I might put a little white out, and I'm going to put a little more yellow out because we need a slightly green layer.
Oh.
And we may need to want to lighten it. And so we'll do that from its lightest point if we decide to. But it's there if I need it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need that much, probably. A little more cad yellow medium.
This is a very caddy painting.
It is. And you can use hue for this. It's okay to use hue. I know cadmium's expensive, and it's all right to use a hue. It's allowed.
That hue over there is just fine.
It is just fine. Hue over there is just fine. Don't be afraid to put in a little pizzazz.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna get the smidgiest of green. And I'm gonna get it into this because we do, and I might even let a little orange get in that. Because this isn't spring green, this is a light fall green. This is the turning of leaves green.
How do you, like, I always end up with like camouflage green.
Well, So it would be how much red went into the green is how far it would go into the green gold.
Oh.
So just enough to take it out of spring. Right? Now the cad yellow, that's pretty good. It's got a little warmth to it. And then, you add a little of the red and you can see it's not camouflage, but it's also not spring.
So if I wanted to know more about that color talk you just
That I just gave, I'm going to turn this so I have a little chance to.
you got a video on a split color palette that explains a lot of that.
I do. I have a lot of color. In fact, I have a whole playlist on color just to make it easier. It doesn't have to be complicated. It is pretty actually simple. It's okay.
So if you were like me and you said color words that I did not understand.
If I said color words you do not understand, you watch that playlist, you will understand.
It will help.
Yeah, it will totally help.
I'm still all the time. She's like, and the red bias and the blue bias and the rainbow turns.
As the rainbow turns. So I'm just adding a little bit of that green here and there. Because it is here and there. Isn't it?
Color theory is complex.
Big spots, little spots, because leaves are facing us, facing away in perspective. These things all remain true. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay that maybe some of the color underneath picks up because they're just playing together so well. I'm going to bring just a smidge more of this over here. A lot more of our yellow and some of our orange because we have a lot of this in the corner. And see how when I put the red in it starts taking it back into that fall green?
Yes.
Fall green. We have a lot through here, a little through here. So we'll put the bits where we have a little. Little touches. I'm going to turn this upside down so I can really work this area. That's, make sure some leaves are up, some leaves are down. So much of it is going on right now. You can see where I'm over my wet paint, I'm just so gentle with that touch. So it's leaving little kisses of the paint.
Yeah.
You want to leave little kisses. Little kisses. Little butterfly kisses.
Little one.
Not that strange ant that left that weird kiss. Not that kiss. Not the one that you have to go wash your face after. Gotta wash the love off. Oh, right on your cheek too. And you gotta remember, Don and I, we had like aunties that would smoke, right? Woo! Some reality there. I don't know if John did. Was that funny to you?
Oh, see, I have to be careful.
Mm.
I have aunts that watch this show.
No, they don't anymore.
Other side.
No. All right. I'm adding a little white now to that bright green. So you see I took a lot of yellow into it and really lightened it before I put any of this green. And then you're going to see, whoa, right? Look at that pop. That's a whole other level.
Wow.
Now, the trick will be knowing how not to overspice it with these colors.
Overspice.
Overspice. You want some because it look at the interest it creates in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It does add a little interest, but you don't want so much that it becomes invisible.
Very spicy.
Yeah, if you evenly put it through here, it will mean nothing to your mind. It'll be like snow. But if you put it in little places, it's going to really stand out to your eyes and be a noticeable addition to the colors.
Mm.
And that's what you're trying to do, is get a noticeable addition to the colors that you're seeing a couple places. So it's like, oh, that's a leaf that has turned.
It is.
All right, guys, guess what? We did the leaves.
That's so good.
Need to put a little more yellow out probably on our palette and come back and I'll show you how to do the last part, which is the grass. So this is the last part. This is where we put that kind of forward-facing ground that is the hill of grass that kind of creates the forest that these trees live in. Lots of ways you could do this. You could use a little round kind of very scruffy hog bristle brush. You could use one of these rakes or grass combs or filbert grainers. I'm going to start with this very inexpensive brush. These are very inexpensive. They are also kind of a hot mess. You need to wash them thoroughly before you use them. Okay, we're going to get a little yellow here. And we're going to make our very dark fall green. So first we begin with a little bit of our phthalo green and our burnt sienna. And you can see we put these in together. And oh, they're so dark, aren't they?
Yeah.
So dark. Perfect for fall. As the colors deepen. Don't want that. I got to put that. So this is going to be just damp, this brush. Not wet, just damp. Okay, I'm going to flick upwards with this dark color. See, I'm flicking upwards.
I see the flick.
And already, because the brush is rough and unruly, it's just fantastic for the trees. Making grasses.
Yeah.
Weird hill that we've got. Hey, we're just trying to paint a happy, light little fall painting.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just, I've got those deep 3-hour fall paintings.
It's true.
Of the deep, deep forest. Lots of intensity in the layers.
If you need some deep, deep forest, you can go there.
But if you just want some joy and some paint and some...
Oh, that's nice.
All right, let's balance. I'm going to kind of fold that down a little bit, balance that out. A little hill up there, but it kind of goes down there. And so, goes off the space because this forward-facing tree. You just want to find where your balance is. Now, once we have that, we're going to get a bunch of our yellow in here. Our yellow. And we're going to lighten up this green here. If my pressure is light, I can work over it while it's still wet. Right? I'm just barely kissing. Again, right? Butterfly kisses.
That highlighting really makes it go, though.
Let's make the grass is dry and burnt. And there it goes. Sometimes it's just about understanding, like, that hot mess brush that you have has a purpose. And its purpose is bushes and grass.
Yes.
It's meaningful. I have very expensive brushes that do this, and I have inexpensive brushes that do this. The difference is the longevity of the brushes that are expensive is much longer, and I have much less work I have to do to make the technique work. Right? And there does come a time where not having to fight the tools becomes worth it to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, also I didn't work very hard to get here.
Huh.
So I'm going to dry this out a little bit, kind of pull some of the paint out. I think I can actually, I'll do this wet into white.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, yeah, I think I can. I'm going to bring a little more yellow into this and let it get into that white.
So if you were not as confident, you could dry here.
I would dry here and then do another layer. If you're like, man, I've got this, come with me.
But if you were not as confident, this would be a good place to dry it.
It would be a good place to dry it if you were not feeling confident. But I'm feeling kind of confident, and I just want you guys to see that these kind of techniques are super possible in acrylic.
I am the cautious backseat painter.
Yes.
Like, whoa there, slow down with that brush. I think you're like in NASCAR how you're handling those corners.
Yeah.
All left turn.
I don't want to take out all the dark. It's the contrast. I need it. I need my contrast. Interesting greens going here. Can't leave it just green. And I will have to dry it before the next layer. Have to, strong. I'm gonna.
It would be
Notice
good.
that I'm pulling the grass in from off the edge of the canvas.
Yep.
I'm letting the brush do the work. You don't have to do the work, guys. The brush has got this. Right? The brush can do this for you. All you have to do is not be too hard on it. Don't be so heavy-handed. Be light. Be airy. Dance along. Try to avoid making patterns. Notice some of my brush strokes go to the right, some of them go to the left.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to rinse this out. I'm going to dry this, and when we come back, we're going to put some finishing touches on this piece. So there's a couple things we can do here at the end of the painting to really bring it together and kind of kick it up to that next level. So in step 10, I don't have a rhyme for this.
Step 10. It is step 10.
It is step 10. And then. and then.
And then.
But we're going to push some of the trees back using shadows, and we're also going to create some dimensionality and take this grass more into a fall thing. And if we're feeling really brave, we might add some little twiggly branches coming down. So first, let's take a little of this yellow and a little of our red. And this is going to make kind of a little orange, green, gold, because the green was there, right?
Mm.
You can even get a little white into that mix. This is dry grass. Play through here. Little white, little yellow. We're just drawing out the grass. Now, by starting with that green base, we're not going to lose the grass to the background, which we could if we didn't do this. Just because it's so monochromatic. And that's why art is our friend, because we can be like, nope, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And you should do it how you want to do it.
Yep.
You can see it definitely like falls it up, doesn't it? When we add that little bit of orange yellow grass to it that's all dried out. But the green keeps it from disappearing into the trees. Ah, the way we play with our eyes. Bring that grass off. Don't let it just start at the edge of the canvas. The world is off your canvas. It exists elsewhere. That's just gorgeous.
Mm.
Just playing in that dry grass range. Dry grass. Who's got dry grass? You've got dry grass.
I see.
And the other way you can do dry grass is start with a base of black and go through browns and golds and oranges. But I wanted that turn because we have the green in the leaves. Because there's also that turn of grass, isn't there?
Yes.
Now we're just, oh, it's such a texture. Such a nice texture. Don't want to take away everything that's there. Rinse out a little bit. I get a little bit into my red and oranges here. I'll make sure that I've got a couple little spots of the red and orange. They've gone right there. It's not bright though, is it? It is against the grass.
Yeah, it definitely is against the grass.
But not on the palette. And a lot of times that's what's going to throw you off, is something will be dull on the palette but very bright on the canvas, and you won't know it was going to be fine on the canvas. You won't be aware of that. And so you'll miss that moment. Just a little bit of those colors. Pretty good. Another thing that we're going to do is I'm going to put out a product called Golden Glazing Liquid. You can use water if you don't have this product.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll go ahead and just take my original round brush. And I'm going to get a little bit of my dark tree color, very little bit, into this glaze. This is called glazing. You could do any medium you have. And I'm going to glaze this tree a little bit.
Oh, wow. That just adds a little shading
to it, doesn't it? Little shading. Come up a little bit. You can even kind of...
little flavor shading.
Little flavor shading. You want to put a little shadow under that tree there. Look at you go. You have the ability to add this unexpected little dimensionality. Like I think if this tree were just a little bit not as bright. Now our trees have depth into the forest here. Even add a little bit between them and create some different dimensionality and depth that way.
Yeah.
So know that you've got room here. You've got room to create some drama. Glazing. Awesome technique. Gets you there. Last thing. Do we feel brave, John? I don't know.
I think so.
Last thing. It'd be nice to have some twiggly bits. So I'm going to take, this is a number 2 Raphael Precision. It's almost like a rigger or monogram liner. It's just a very long detail brush. And I'm going to get some water, quite a lot of it, into my black color and spin it around so it thins. I could also just use fluid paint or ink, but I don't have any out, and you might not either. And I'm going to come here, and I'm going to try to very carefully add some little downward twigs. What do you think?
Ah, I like them. Now, if you have trouble making your twigs forky.
Well, we're almost even not making forky, but remember, you don't want to make pitchforks, which is that all of the twigs come out of the same spot. You want to, you want a joint and then a joint. You want to stagger it. Think about staggering your stuff. But in this, you almost want little just hints of them, right? Doesn't that instantly just get you more into the, oh, this is a fall forest scene. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
This brush also kind of really helps me because it's long and it tends to want to wander, and I can wander between the leaves that I put down. If it's real thick, I may have to come back in, but that's okay.
Because it can kind of enter and
exits the paint, so that's interesting visually.
It makes it look cool.
If it's just overwhelming, you can always, dry it and then come over. I feel like that just... I like it.
I do too. It added a lot to it real fast.
It does add just a lot to it real fast. Decoratively, it can just be little thoughts of maybe some twigs were back here.
See,
they're kind of coming in and out of the leaves. Personality, right?
It's a lot of it.
Okay. So what you want is detail brush. It does help if there's there's a couple kinds of detail brushes. There's my little micro detail right here, right?
Yeah.
And then this is longer. It's the length out that gives you that little springy bit. So you do want to length out. You do. You do want to length out. This would be better. See how this has got a longer length out? You want a longer length out. I'm going to use my monogram liner just to sign it because it does give me a nice outcome. Guys, this was fun.
It turned out really nice.
I'm going to have some more. We've had a lot of 3 hoot fall. I'm going to have some more 1 and 2 hoot shorter lessons coming especially during the Tuesday, Thursday live streams. Premieres. Come on the weekends for the deep dives, right? We've got the bird hop coming up this Saturday with Ginger Cook. Yeah, starting at 1 p.m. That's going to be 6 paintings in one day. Each lesson less than 15 minutes because we decided that way you guys have a break between.
Right.
So be sure and let this video send you to that. And then you can hit the remind button and be like, oh, I want to be there. You do want to be there. It starts Saturday at 1 p.m. We will guide you through. We've done one of these before. It was a huge hit. It was amazing. So you definitely want to join us. Those are all very 1 hoot little birds, little cute things. Give you a break in your art world. Lots of gifts. We need gifts. Gifts. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Leave that comment with the hashtag #TheArtSherpa before you go, so you can be entered. And I will post up the rules and conditions and terms and everything and how it's not associated with Facebook or YouTube in any way.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you had fun in doing this, guys. This was a lot of fun for me. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.